What's going on, Lions fans? Welcome to the Pride of Detroit podcast. This is your brand new preview podcast called Before the Roar. I'm your host, Meko, joined by my great two co-hosts here. You guys will know them. You've seen them. You've heard their voices before. First and foremost, we have Morgan Cannon, my partner in crime over there on YouTube. Morgan, what's going on with you, my guy?
Ready for Sunday, bro. I'm ready for Sunday.
I think that's how everybody is feeling right now. And our other co-host that we have joining us today, we have Brandon Knapp. Brandon, how are you, my man?
I'm in the same boat as Morgan. I'm just ready for football. It was a good appetizer last week, but I'm ready for the full course.
I was going to say, I'm not even a big Cowboys, Eagles fan right now. Both of those fan bases are kind of on my hit list right now of I don't really enjoy them, but I'm going to watch football even tomorrow. Cause that's how much I just want the season to start. That's how invested I am at this point. But at the same time, again, we are here to talk about the Detroit Lions. Like I said at the top of this is our brand new preview podcast over at Pride of Detroit. And we will be doing this every single week. So you can find this over on your podcast feed, wherever you find podcasts, each and every, let's say, Thursday morning. That's when you probably should expect it to be in your feed. So throughout this podcast, we're basically going to take at the Detroit Lions and take a look at some of their strengths, some of their things that they need to be aware of, as well as talk about X factors. And then by the end of it all, we are going to give our score predictions. So with that said, guys, let's go ahead and jump into this. And Morgan, I'm going to start with you asking this question right here. When you look at the Detroit Lions squaring off against the Green Bay Packers in week 1 of this season, how do you think the Lions should attack Green Bay offensively in order to put themselves in position to win this week?
So if y'all are listening to this, chances are you're aware of the transaction that took place a couple days ago between the Dallas Cowboys and the Green Bay Packers. And now everybody's talking about it and how the Packers are the team to beat in the NFC now. Never mind the NFC North. They're talking about the NFC, which I think is a little crazy. So I say all that to say the Packers were light last year, in my opinion. A little light in the pants, if you will, defensively. And it caused them some issues, especially against the Lions. So lost in that trade, I tweeted it. I said, you lost Kenny Clark. And Kenny Clark, man, yes, Micah Parsons is a higher caliber player than Kenny Clark. If we're looking at it objectively, I'm not stupid. But Kenny Clark had been an annoyance to the Lions. Y'all know this for years now at this point. He's one of the better interior defensive linemen in the game. So getting him out of there will be nice. So big, long, drawn out response. I think the Lions are going to lean on these fools, man. I really do. I think it's going to be a little lesson in bully ball. I think they're going to throw the ball some. Don't get me wrong. It's not going to be 50 runs, but I do think they're going to want to get downhill, employ some of these gap schemes, and kind of mash dudes. You know what I'm saying? What do you think, Brandon?
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you. Kenny Clark is going to be huge for them, especially, if Parsons is limited. I know he's probably going to be just probably on passing downs. Even though he's not that good of a run defender, I think the Lions are just going to stick to just runs up the gut. They're going to attack those tackles more than anything. The only thing I'm a little weary about, not too much, is just the young interior of, Christian Mahogany and Tate Ratledge. I'm sure they'll be fine talent-wise. I'm not going up against anybody too impressive, but it's just still, getting used to playing in the NFL. It's a whole different league. Might take them a little bit, but I'm not too worried about their defensive line at all. Meko, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm not either. The Kenny Clark aspect of the Micah Parsons trade was one of those things that, Morgan said, didn't get talked about a ton, but it is a huge loss, in my opinion, for Green Bay and their ability to stop the run. You're not just talking about having, yes, you have some young offensive linemen up front and for the Lions in terms of Ratledge and Mahogany, but I think even on Green Bay's side, you have a couple of defensive tackles that aren't quite proven in terms of being stout run defenders. Don't get me wrong. I love Devontae Wyatt. I loved him coming out of Georgia, and I still think he'll be a good long-term defensive tackle for Green Bay. But Morgan, he's more of an attacking 3-tech than he is this stout run defender. And then you look at the linebackers behind them. Again, Edgerrin Cooper, great linebacker, right? I even think Quay Walker is a little slept on at times. I think he can be imposing at times, but I still think that the Lions have enough that they can take advantage of on the just in the trenches. But Brandon, I also think it gets even worse for them when you talk about what the Lions can potentially do in terms of attacking them and attacking that secondary, because we're talking about a bunch of guys that before probably this week, you probably couldn't name anybody in the Green Bay secondary, right?
Yeah, I was even doing my research on the Packers for my scouting report article, and I was looking through, and obviously we knew that they lost Jair Alexander, but I didn't know Nate Hobbs was questionable, so I looked into it, and he tore his meniscus, back in August, and he had a surgery, and he's going to be back playing. He's questionable right now. He didn't practice at all on Wednesday, so if he's not going to be able to suit up, which, it's still early, But if without him, who do you have? Carrington Valentine? You have Keyshawn Nixon will probably be on St. Brown, but outside of that, you don't really have much depth. You're gonna have to rely on those safeties to really help you out. And that's where I think if they can't to mix up the pass and the run, that's where you're gonna be able to target them heavily is to that passing game, possibly on JMO.
Yep, that's what I look at it, man. And you can exploit a lot because we talked about it at the top, like Colby Wooden, 273 pounds. Devontae Wyatt's a good player, like Meko talked about, 304 pounds. They got two smaller linebackers in Cooper and McDuffie. I do like Quay Walker when he's not in his own head. He's a good player when he's not doing some silly things like touching referees. But yeah, when you talk about their secondary, I really like Xavier McKinney, obviously an elite safety in this game, like right up there with Kirby and BB, in my opinion, behind them though. And yeah, you would think this could be something where they lean on them a bit, get those linebackers creeping towards the line of scrimmage and hitting a Sam Laporta, up the seam type of thing. Because I really do think there's going to be space there because if, like Brandon said, if Ratledge and Mahogany can go from the jump and like be physical, I think they're going to be able to run the ball on the Packers. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Let's switch gears here because I think in talking about what the Lions need to do offensively, it sounds like everything that they can do to be aggressive, that they can be on the attack. What are some things that you think, Morgan, that the Lions need to guard against in order to still be able to have a control of Green Bay in this game? What do you think is something that they need to kind of be on the watch for or try to contain?
I don't want Love to get comfortable. I think, last year he was banged up, had a tough year. We've heard about that. But I want him to be kind of shook from the jump. I think Hutch is going to get a good opportunity to work against a really quality right tackle in Zach Tom, right off the jump. You know what I mean? So I expect him to eat because if you've been eating against Panay, you've been winning your fair share of reps against Panay, you should win a good chunk of them against Zach Tom, not being disrespectful, but he's not Panay. So that's kind of what I look at. I don't want him to be comfortable. I want him, hit him early and often. But if you do that, you can kind of keep their offense off balance. What do you think, Brandon?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, but I'm going to flip on the opposite side. I'm going to flip on the Lions offensive line, to do well to protect Jared Goff. We know, last year he did well against the blitz, so he's not afraid, to go against that pressure. But, Micah Parsons and Rashawn Gary, they're not something to just ignore. They're going to be difficult. Even if Parsons isn't 100% on the field or giving it all, he's still going to be someone that you got to worry about. If they can generate pressure on Goff, we have seen Goff under pressure sometimes not do his best times. He'll spin around in circles, fumble the ball, make a costly turnover. So if they can kind of protect him, keep him upright as long as they can, Meko, I think that would be a really good shot for this offense to really take advantage and end up winning this game.
I think that's a huge point right there. I think in order for us to be able to say the Lions can take advantage of them in the run game or they can take advantage of them in the pass game, it's got to start with that offensive line. And that is both in terms of getting push in the run game and, like you were saying, keeping Goff upright in the event that you do get into some third and long, second and long situations where Micah Parsons could be on the field. You have to be wary of that. I would even say, I know Ryan's been a little down on Rashawn Gary, but Rashawn Gary has had some really good matchups against Taylor Decker. You got to be mindful of those types of things because if Jared Goff can't get into a rhythm passing wise, the last thing you want as the Lions is to become one-dimensional offensively. I will say for me, one thing that I want the Lions to be mindful of or at least be aggressive in is shutting down the run game. Morgan, I get what you're saying in terms of being, worried about Jordan Love getting comfortable. I'm a little worried about Josh Jacobs getting started and getting comfortable in the run game. If that happens, I think you're talking about, some really tough sledding for that Lions defense.
Yeah, and Josh Jacobs is an elite back. I'm not going to take anything away from him. And I love that point that you made, Brandon, because if the Lions were to get in trouble early on, I think it would be from interior pressure because that's what Goff doesn't like. And to be fair, no quarterback likes that. If you ask them what's the worst kind of pressure, right up the middle, the pocket's getting pushed into their lap. There's nowhere to really move. So I do think they need to be clean and communicate early. They're going to test them because they know that offensive line has been a little shuffled, right? So Green Bay is going to come at them with a good amount of games and stunts and just try to keep them off balance and try to create a free runner because that's the kind of thing that can swing the momentum of a game, even if you're technically dominating in the box score. You know what I mean? One of those games where you should be up 14-3, but instead it's 10-7 because you fumbled the ball because you someone had a missed assignment off the edge, that kind of thing. So I think that's important. And I love your point about Josh Jacobs too, Mika. Can't let him get going. But you know how cocky I've been about the Lions' run defense all year this year. And how tough do you think it's going to be to run against a front like that has DJ Reader and Tyleek and all these bodies, Roy Lopez, that they can throw at you?